Hello students, this is the third session of the unit 2 that is in continuation with the general characteristics of microorganisms. In previous class we just discussed about the general characteristics of bacteria. That is, it's a biological cell. It constitutes a large domain of prokaryotic microorganisms. About its size, shape, structure, element of the cell, its cultural characteristics and physiological characteristics, its reproduction and all, its uses and hazards also. We just discussed in the previous session. And now we'll discuss about the general characteristics of other microorganisms, that is protozoa, algae and virus in this session. I will be discussing in very brief. Okay, let us start with the protozoa. Protozoa is an informal term for a group of single-celled eukaryotes, either free-living or parasitic. These are called as a single-celled eukaryotics or single-cell eukaryotes. Historically, protozoans were regarded as one-celled animal because they often possess animal-like behaviors such as motility, predation. They don't have cell wall as we found cell wall in plants and many algae. Some examples of protozoa are amoeba, paramecium, euglena, etc. So the general characteristics of protozoa, it is discussed in size, habitat, feeding, etc. The size of protozoans is ranges in size from as little as 1 micrometer to several millimeters. The habitat of protozoa, they are free-living protozoans and these are common and often abundant in fresh water, brackish water, salt water, as well as they found in the moist environments also, like soils and the mosses. About feeding, all protozoans are heterotrophs, deriving nutrients from other organisms, either by ingesting them whole or consuming their organic remains and the waste products. They won't produce their food on themselves. They are the heterotrophs, means they depend on the other. And about motility and all, the protozoans, they traditionally classified as protozoa because these are abundant in aqueous environments and soil, occupying a range of trophic levels. Pellicle, unlike plants, fungi, and most of types of algae, protozoans do not typically have a rigid cell wall, but they are usually enveloped by elastic structures of membranes that permit the movement of the cell. That is the pellicle. About the life cycle, protozoans, they reproduce asexually by binary fission or by the multiple fission. Now coming to algae. Algae is an informal term for a large and diverse group of photosynthetic eukaryotic organisms. These are also called as photosynthetic eukaryotic organisms. It is a polyphyletic grouping including species from multiple distinct clades. It included organisms ranges from unicellular microalgae such as chlorella and the diatoms to multicellular forms such as a giant kelp, a large brown alga which may grow up to 50 meters in length. If we see the general characteristics of these algae are photosynthetic organisms. They produce their food themselves. Algae can be either unicellular or they can be multicellular organisms. And algae, they lack a well-defined body. So the structures like roots, stems or leaves, these are absent. That is why they are lack in a well-defined body. Algae have a fat and water-soluble pigments. Algae found where there is a adequate moisture. And also the motile algae are also called as swimming algae. These algae have a flagella occurring singly or in pairs or in clusters at the anterior and posterior end of the cell. The flagella, which helps in the motility, it may occur singly or in pairs or in clusters, which helps in the motility of the algae. Reproduction in algae, it usually occurs in both asexual and also sexual forms. Asexual reproduction occurs by usually the spore formation, and algae are free living, although some can form a symbiotic relationship with the other organisms. Symbiotic relationship means the mutual helping. Okay, next move on to the viruses. A virus, it is a submicroscopic infectious agent that replicates only inside the living cells of the organisms. Viruses infect all types of life forms from animals and plants to microorganisms, including bacteria and the archaea. Means they viruses infect even the animals, they'll infect plants, they even infect the microorganisms too. The vast majority of viruses contain only one type of nucleic acid, that is DNA or RNA. Viruses, they contain either DNA or RNA, not both. Viruses totally dependent on the host cell for their replication. The non-living characteristics of viruses, why we say the non-living characteristics? Because when the virus is inside the host, then only it is called as a living. Otherwise, it is non-living only. So, non-living characteristics include the fact that they are not cells, they have no cytoplasm or cellular organelles, and carry out no metabolism on their own, and therefore must replicate using the host cell's metabolic machinery. Viruses can infect animals, plants, and even other microorganisms. With this, I summarize that protozoans, they are the single-celled eukaryotes, and they are also called as a single-celled animal. Algae, it is the photosynthetic eukaryotic, and viruses are the submicroscopic infectious agents that replicates only inside the living cells of the organisms. And these are the references which I have used. Thank you.